Dallas.
What's up, family? What's up, family? It's been a minute. It's been since the top of April that we've been in this place, but it's back. Creative Conversations with JA. Creative Conversations with JA. We are diving into Mental Health Month. I got my personal therapist. She's locked, she's loaded, she's ready. I need y'all to show her some love. Before we do that, you can catch us on all our social media platforms. We are on Creative Conversations with JA Facebook, Creative Conversations with JA on Instagram. Guess what? We on Spotify. So yes, we go on Spotify. We on Apple Music. We go on Google Music. What else are we on? We're on iHeartRadio. We're on a bunch of platforms, about 5 or 6 platforms. So we are excited about it. Wow. We done been on a hiatus, like I said, since about the beginning of April. Just had a lot of had just recently got a new job with Big Brother, Big Sister, and they got me running all over the place. But we are back. We're locked. We're loaded. We're excited to be in the place. We're excited to talk about mental health. I'm not going, what is the word? Prolong this any longer. Let's talk about mental health. I'm going to bring our guest in. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I am doing well.
Thanks for being on the show. Before we really dive into our topic, could you just tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello, everybody. I am Starshenah Duncan. I am a licensed professional counselor. I have been doing this for almost 15 years. Can you believe that? 15 years. I have been doing it in any type of capacity you can name it, but within the last 3 years, I have been doing it for my own, stepped out on faith and started my own practice, and God has been nothing but faithful to me. So I'm thankful for that. So I love what I do, and it shows through when I talk to people, and I've been doing this for a while. And so we're talking about mental health, and it's very important that we continue to focus on that. So that's a little bit about me.
That is good. I'm glad she said the fullness of her name, because I was going to butcher it. I just said, hey, Star. So I'm glad she said that part. So you was giving God all praise. So you're a Christian counselor.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Or you're just a counselor that happens to be Christian.
Could it be a twofold? You could be a Christian counselor, you could be no. But I do when I do therapy, I will incorporate stuff about the Bible. We will pray. And so I would say I am a Christian counselor. Yes, okay. That is one of the many hats I wear.
Yeah. So what would you say is the difference between being just, hey, I'm a counselor and a Christian counselor? Like, what are those? How do those two roles, are they different? They same?
I would say they're different.
Okay.
And the reason why I would say they're different is because people who actually actively seek someone who's a Christian counselor, they come and they want to talk about God and like talk about their faith and their journey and their walk. And so to understand God and who God is and the goodness of God and even understanding the Bible is important if you're incorporating that in counseling. For a counselor who was just Christian and doesn't incorporate that in, that's two different things. So, as a counselor who's a Christian, you would stick strictly to what you've learned and been taught. But as a Christian counselor, you come outside of that box and you begin to talk about the roots of stuff. So someone comes in and says, you know what? I've been praying about something. God has led me to do this. As a counselor, if I don't know God, I would maybe think you're crazy, right? Because God led you to do something that you probably people would think is crazy. But a person who has their own relationship and walk with God, I can understand when someone says, God told me to move. And he's telling me to move in the next 2 weeks. And I would say, if that's what God has told you to do, let's pray on it. Let's keep, seek that. So there is a really big difference. Yes.
Okay. So what, excuse me, what made you want to, in a sense, be a Christian counselor? Because it seemed like there'd be more money in just being a counselor.
I don't know what made, I wouldn't say I came out and said I want to be a Christian counselor. I feel like it was, for me, it's a calling. What I do really is a calling in my life. I could say, I remember as a kid, just how I would gravitate towards people and young kids. And I couldn't figure out what it was about. People walk up to me and tell me stories. What is this? I don't even know your business. But I truly believe that God has called me to do this. And this is to me, I believe this is my ministry. I'm not a pastor. I'm not in a church. But I truly believe every day when I either see someone face to face or via Zoom, that God has given me the wisdom to touch their lives. And so I would say what made me say I'm more of a Christian counselor was that it was my calling and I couldn't deny it. I could just say I'm a counselor, and it's some platforms people look at me as just as a counselor, but it does say on a lot of things that I do that I am a Christian counselor. And so, yes, you can't deny it, I guess. It's when it's your calling, it's your calling. It's going to come out one way or another, right? So.
Wow. So it's mental health. It's Mental Health Month. And so this is why I wanted to have you on. Being a Christian, sometimes pastors and sometimes saved people, they don't believe in the term mental health. So I just want to ask, what is mental health? Is it a myth, or is mental health real?
It is not a myth. Let's be real. Mental health is really real. So let's look at it like this. Is medical health a myth or real? Because if you're a diabetic, do I see your diabetes?
No.
You don't walk around and diabetes is all over your body. Now, there's certain diseases we see, right? But there's certain things like people who have high blood pressure, we don't see diabetes, we don't see certain things. People who have cancer, we'll see the symptoms of them, but we don't see the actual illness. And so I believe a lot of people, and in a church culture, which we know is God is turning it around, they're coming around. But in a church culture, they did not believe mental health was real. They thought it was a myth. If you pray, it will go away. But in reality, we are one body, so we're whole. So if my mind is affected, my body's affected, and that's how we have to look at it. And so it can't be a myth, because if I'm depressed and I'm severely depressed, it hurts to move. It hurts to think, because life to me is meaningless. And so I'm not going to get out the bed. And we take these little things for granted. Like we get up every morning, brush our teeth, wipe our face, take showers. People who are severely depressed won't even want to brush their teeth or get out of bed. They'll lay in the same bed for months at a time. And so is that a myth? No, it hurts, because my mind is in a lot of ways is captive, and I can't move because of my mind's not healthy. So if my mind's not healthy, then my body's not healthy. And so I'm not saying it just because I'm a therapist that it's not a myth. I would say if I wasn't even in this field and just seeing over these last several years when we just had this whole pandemic, just seeing how that has affected people. If you thought it was a myth, then I don't know where you're living, because mental health is real. It's not going anywhere, and it seems like it's getting worse.
Wow. So it ain't just the demon that we could pray away.
I'm not saying let's not pray, because prayer changes things. So
right.
I'm not going to come here and make everybody mad at me, like she ain't a Christian. I'm not saying God can't change things, but God has blessed everyone here to do a certain job on the earth. And so as a therapist, I've been blessed with the not only the knowledge, but also been blessed with the gift to help people. And so with that, I'm saying, yes, you can still pray. And I tell people to pray all the time, pray and seek God. But there's nothing wrong with having a candid conversation with someone other end to talk about it, because what God has blessed me with will help you in your decision making a lot of times, and will help you be able to get through those irrational and rational thoughts, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
we could go off an irrational thought. And even like when I just said in the beginning, like God, people coming like, God told me to move across to Alaska. Who do you know in Alaska? Nobody, but God said move. And so that could be a rational thought, but based off of that, let's talk about that. Did God really say it, or you're really like based off? So just having that candid conversation, that hardcore conversation that sometimes you can't even have with family or friends.
Mm.
So
Wow.
no, mental
It's
health
not a. It's
is
real.
that's what we will keep saying. Mental health is not a myth, but we can still pray. Let's continue
Okay.
to pray.
So I just can't go to my pastor and that's it, and he counsel me.
Your pastors can counsel. But sometimes it's out of the range of the counseling with the pastor. You know,
Mm.
unless the pastor, they're blessed with a different ability, they're blessed with different type of counseling. They could see some things off, but they don't maybe have the insight to understand the ins and outs of depression, anxiety, even, and let's be real, bipolar, schizophrenia. Let's talk about those real ones that when you hear people be like, oh, you're crazy. But those ones, like those diagnoses, carry a weight, and sometimes it's just understanding how to even approach somebody. As a pastor, your approach may be different than my approach. I may come at
Mm.
you in a different way than a pastor. A pastor may talk to you and listen to you and say, you know what, sister, I really think we're going to lift you up in prayer and keep you in prayer. And that may be the end of the conversation because it's out of their range, where it's more me talking about, let's talk about the skills. Let's talk about how to build you up. Let's talk about the thoughts, the racing thoughts. Let's talk about the suicidal thoughts. Let's talk about the wanting to harm people. Let's talk about all the different things that has, come and get into your mind and can overtake your mind, and have nights where you're not sleeping at night because you're so overwhelmed with racing thoughts. Let's talk about those things. And a lot of times pastors don't, or not, I'm not saying they're not blessed with that, but they just may not have that insight and knowledge to go deeper with that.
That is good. So we have this mental health month, and it seems like there's something going on every month. It's like uh, goddaughter month. It's like dog month. But why is mental health important?
Mental health is important for your mind, body, and soul, right? So I'm gonna
Mm.
take it back to when God sat us down a couple years ago, 2020 to be exact. I mean, they call it COVID. I called it, God said it was time for y'all to sit your behinds down. Let's be real. And during that time of us going through that pandemic and being quarantined, a lot of things that we have overlooked came to the forefront. I mean, so much had came out of those quiet moments and times where some people came out with like a better understanding, better relationships, new jobs. And some people came out of those things with more problems than they went in with. And so when I look at that time period when we were slowed down and basically stopped, we were faced with who we were. And mental health, that's a lot of things when we deal with mental health, is really understanding and faced with who you are, because it's all about things that you have dealt with in the past, present, and even going to handle and deal with in the future. And a lot of times, because we're so busy and caught up with the day-to-day ins and out, we don't even talk about or even look at a lot of stuff that we do. We sweep things underneath the rug. Hurt, we sweep underneath the rug. Pain, we sweep underneath the rug. Trauma, we sweep underneath the rug, because we continue to do that. And then it's like when you finally sit still and you're faced with yourself, everything comes to the forefront. And so a lot of times when we have to face those problems and those different situations that happen, it becomes overwhelming. And that's where the mental health comes in. And that's the importance of it. It's just like I even go back to when I was saying, you can't see diabetes, you see the symptoms of diabetes. Like I can't see depression, but I can see the symptoms of depression. I can't see
Hmm.
anxiety, but I can see the symptoms of anxiety. And so when you talk about mental health, you see those things. And sometimes it's just good to understand, like, I'm not crazy. You know how many people ask me, am I crazy? And I'll be like, you're not crazy. But that's a common thing because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people equivalent being having mental health issues as being crazy. And we ain't there no more. We've moved on. And I hate to use the word we ain't there, but we aren't. We've moved on. Mental health has evolved over the years, but it still does carry a big stigma with
Mm-hmm.
it, you know, but it has evolved over the years, definitely.
Wow, and that's just where I was going to go. We're both in two communities that the Christian community, especially Christian African American community, and the African American community as a whole, where we feel like, wow, if well, you know, therapy is kind of foreign to us, and if you go to therapy, that means you're crazy and something's wrong with you. So how, if we can, how do we break that stigma, especially in the African American community, that it's okay to get help, it's okay to go get therapy and counseling.
I mean, I think that is a battle we will be fighting for ages because even you think about it now, and I was just telling someone this other day, if you look at our community, we all been raised in different homes by different parents. Either we had a two-parent household or single parent household or raised by grandparents. But the one thing that we all can say we had in common was the one thing we all heard: what happens in this house stays in this house, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it was like, no matter what happened, don't go out and tell my business, because if someone knows about what happened in this house, your behind is in trouble. And so that is like the motto that, or the mantra that we've been like, has been drilled into our heads for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you come into therapy to talk about some of these things that happened as a child, and like knowing that I'm portraying that, like that unspoken rule that we all had in our household, it's a very hard thing to deal with. And I think that's the thing that really is like the wall we're hitting in our community, is because we don't want to talk about different things that's happened in our household, and how
Mm-hmm.
it has caused trauma in our life, and how it's affected our life to the point that we're, as an adult, still dealing with some things that's happened when I was 5, and not realizing
Mm.
that because this happened when I was 5, I'm responding like this at 45, you know. And then it's like, why am I still responding like this at 45 when it happened to me at 5? Because all these years we kept it and swept it underneath the rug, and we were not allowed to have these in-depth conversations and express our feelings and emotions about what has happened in the house. And so that is like the age battle that we fight against, is what happens in this house stays in this house, you know. And it's like, how do we get us to feel comfortable to talk about the things my mom did when I was a kid that wasn't right, or the things my dad did when I was a kid that wasn't right, or the things that I saw between my siblings that wasn't right, or just in and out, back and forth, that wasn't right, because we just feel like if we say these things, we have portrayed that age old mantra, and now we portrayed it our household. And heaven forbid my mom finds out, or my parents find out, or my grandma finds out that I done ran all our business, and I'm 55, but I'm still like scared that they may be upset about it, you know. So
Wow. And so you said that this is a calling and this is your passion. How did your family receive the fact that you were going to be a therapist, or you're going to school for therapy?
I don't think they understood. I mean, the journey I took to get to where I'm at, I think they were just like, well, she goes to work and she talks to people. I think that's what everyone feels like. Even my kids, they say, you just talk to people all day. I don't think they understood until like recently, that they really began to understand the importance of like what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I think they just thought, I was like, it's just a job. Star got a job, thank God. She's not living off anybody. But I really think as I got deeper into it and really started like talking more about it and explaining what we do, they begin to understand it more. But in the beginning, it was just like, oh, she's just a therapist. She's just a counselor, as they would call us before, counselors. And
Yeah.
now that therapy has become a trend, mental health has become
Mm-hmm.
a trend. Now it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. What you do makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah.
So what is the difference between, I want to say, a therapist and a psychologist? Or is it
So
is it
There's a
Okay.
difference. So a therapist is more like the talk. We do the talk therapy and the diagnosis. The psychiatrist, they do talk, some talk, but they do more with medication. So they do more of the assessment part of it, and they're the ones who would diagnose you. And then based on the diagnosis, they would be able to prescribe you medication. So that's the main thing is the medication prescription part of it. Where I can't prescribe you any medication. I could talk to you all day long and I can diagnose you and refer you to a psychiatrist, but the psychiatrist does the more of the heavy lifting with the medication and stuff. So,
Okay. So being that it is mental health month, and like you said, some things we just like to use and trend off of them. It's
yes.
a trend. But how do we maintain our mental health?
I think the one thing is big self care.
Mm.
Let's talk
So
about that, right?
wait a minute. You didn't mean that ain't mean being selfish, right? That's not
No,
selfish.
no.
Self care. Go ahead. I'm
Self
sorry.
care. Self care. Then you have to be, you don't have to be selfish to experience self care, right? You have to take care of yourself. So you
Mm.
need to be able to have those moments where you set healthy boundaries with people.
Woo.
Uh, we have lot of, we have a lot of people who are the strong friends, the person that carries everyone's burdens, the go-to,
Mm.
the family. They're the matriarch and they're not even really the matriarch of the family, and that's them. And a lot of times we just give to people, and then we forget about ourselves, right? And so what happens is I wear myself out. And I always tell people, imagine your body as a car, right? We can drive our car around a full gas tank, a full tank of gas for how long before? Now, just some cars, a week, depending. But eventually the car goes down to E. And once we hit E, what happens? The car stops. Like it's like tells you we ain't going nowhere until you fill us up. But a lot of times we allow ourselves just to continually to like wear ourselves down to the place that we're not even able to give from a even give from a even from a well. We're giving from emptiness to
Mm.
give to someone else. And so the biggest thing is to keep your mind right is self-care. So it's even like
Wow.
having to tap out,
Mm-hmm.
like being able to say no. No is not being selfish, right? If I, even if I can do it, do I have to do it? Is the
Woo.
thing, right? Because a lot of
That.
times we do things just because we want it, because we don't want people to get mad at us or they're used to it or this is what we're doing or this is our identity. Let's talk about that. This is our identity. I'm the savior of the family, so I have to do everything, right? And so
Stay. Woo.
to the place that I have given up, I'm giving you all I got. And now I'm over here trying to get something from someone just to survive. But we run off of that. So self-care is important, and it's not selfish. I have to go backwards to have that moment of peace. And since we're on talking about since we got some, we're gonna have the Christian people looking. Jesus rested. Did he not go away by himself to let God just pour into him? After he poured into the people, he went away. So if Jesus rested, why can you not rest? And I say this to myself as well, but why can you not rest?
Me
Why are
too.
you not able to like have those moments of saying no? Now he didn't specifically come out saying, no, I won't do it. But there was moments in time when he walked this earth where he just was there and didn't do much. But then there was times where he went away because he's like, I need to be able to like get those moments to get that to revive, to refresh myself, to come back out to pour to people and to pour from a well and not from an empty place. And a lot of times we function on an empty place, which affects our mind and also and ultimately affects our body. And so that's the importance of one of the main things about mental health is taking care of yourself, and self-care is a big one.
Mm. Wow. That's so important because I feel, and I don't know any other cultures. I just know the two cultures, Christianity and African American community. But it feels like in the African American community, we, especially our women, take on so much weight And I don't know if that's a cultural thing, but it's like, why do they take on so much weight, and why do we put that weight on them? I don't know if you can answer. I don't know if that's a
But
mental
I
health
feel, I
question.
mean, I could be wrong. So someone may come back and be like, Star's wrong. But I really look at it, goes back to, let's talk about to our ancestors. Women were, they were like, they carried everything. They, not only the matriarchs, but they were like the center of the household, the center. And so a lot of stuff came through women. I mean, if we look at biblically, women are the ones who carry the child, and the child comes through them. We're the nurturers. And so, and that's, and being that we are, as a nurturer, what am I going to do? I'm going to provide, and the way I provide is by trying to take loads off of you. And so I think that's where it comes from, where we just tend to want to add more onto our backs and onto our sides and on wherever we can add it, because that's just in our nature. But as women, we need to also learn how to say no at times, and we need to also learn how to value self-care as well, because we are running ourselves ragged to the place that some of us even look tired, and we know we look tired, and we really do. We know, like, and we feel tired. So I could be wrong, but I think that it goes back to then. And I even, like I said, I'm gonna take it back to biblical, because that was when God gave the jobs. He was just like, you're going to, this is a job you have, Eve. This is your job moving forward. And I think as women, we just continue to do that, and we continue to carry that weight.
I'm smiling a little bit because my love said, well, that's a question for the men.
Oh, that is true. So do you got the answer?
I can't answer for all men, but I try not to put any weight on the women that I love. I try not to. Now, I can't say that when we're sick. Sometimes we could be a little needy. Yeah. But I try not to put weight. But sometimes, and I think this is not saying this right or wrong. Just sometimes I feel like women just handle things better.
Well, listen, see, this is our opinion. I agree with you. I think we do. But
But
no,
that
so,
doesn't
I mean,
mean,
yeah, that
men,
doesn't mean.
that we should put all the weight on them. We're supposed to be a help meet. So even if you can't cook, like certain people that I won't name on this line, man, you can at least go give them some Applebee's or something. Get a day, say this is the day I'm gonna designate that, my family or, my significant other doesn't have to cook, and just feed the whole family for a day. I mean,
That's Mother's Day.
well, no, but it shouldn't only happen on Mother's Day. It
That's
shouldn't
Mother's
happen
Day.
on
That's why the
Mother's Day.
restaurants are always full, because it's Mother's Day.
I'm just saying that take a day out and allow, your significant other, your mother, your auntie, give them some self care, because 9 times out of 10, they don't know how to do self care. There's a certain person that I know, somebody got them a gift card to the massage place. They ain't used it yet. I mean, not naming no names,
You're not gonna name the
but
name.
sometimes it's hard for women to get that self care, because the mom, as a mom, as a sister, as that person who is the matriarch, they never have time for themselves. Always knocking at the door. Always a phone call. Oh, can you take me here? Can you take me there? And that's a little rough. And we just
Mhm.
got to do better as men.
So I'm gonna play the devil's advocate on this one, but
Go
there's
ahead.
sometimes where women will allow men to do things, and men won't take the lead.
That's not me. But
I'm not saying with you. I'm not saying, but I'm saying we're talking about like
you're
passing
right.
that on. There is times where I've heard women say, you know what? I'll step back and let him do this because this is what he said he wanted to do. And then it's like you do it and they're looking at you like you're crazy. Like, don't you always do this anyway? Like like why are we changing the scenario? So it's like it's that catch-22, right? I
Yeah,
think.
I do
There's
too.
men
I
out
do
there
too.
who's willing to help, but then there's also men out there who's like, well, I cut the grass, take the garbage out. I did my job. And and then she's back there like folding the laundry, babies hanging, and like she's doing what she was supposed to do. I did my job. I'm moving on. But I mean,
You're right.
I'm just
Maybe
saying.
they should maybe they should rethink that relationship. Maybe they didn't pray hard enough.
May I don't know. We're not gonna talk. We're not getting in people's houses, but I'm
I'm
just
not
saying.
getting people's houses, but
But
this
I'm
is a
saying it could be
it is
flipped
a
on the
mental
other
health
side.
issue
It could
though.
be.
And,
It really is. It really is.
and mental health and you're the professional, but mental health doesn't even just affect your mind. That stress and stuff affects your body.
Mm-hmm.
You over here, each way. I mean, the mental health could be stressing you out so much that you eat and everything, which is unhealthy, or you're not eating and you're losing weight. So it doesn't just even
Mm-hmm.
affect your mind, it affects your soul. And it even affects this. I don't say it's a Christian show, but it affects your spirit as well.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I didn't mean it to be men. I got your back.
But
But
when you
it's
talk
just been
about the spirit, when you think about, let's even look at it at that point, when you have those moments of self-doubt and those moments that you feel like life is worthless, that
Mhm.
affects you as not only as a Christian, because to have that internal battle, like I know I'm not supposed to take my life. God is supposed to call me home. However my ending is, that's how God has planned it out to be. But when life has hit you so hard and you feel like there's nothing left but me not to be here, that
Mhm.
becomes a battle. I've sat across people and they're like, Star, I literally, if I did not believe in God, you would have not seen me today. you know
Mm.
and so that's like a hard thing to deal with, not only but big as a Christian, but even if you just believe in, some people don't, we don't even say they don't believe in God. Some people like, I believe in the universe. They believe in different things. And so though, like, as we talk about those different things, the beliefs they believe in, that is the thing that keeps them from taking their life. And
Mm.
so,
Wow.
like we
Yeah.
talk about, it does, mental health it does affect you spiritually. If you have something, if your foundation is spiritually, and that, it does become a internal battle with you when it comes to that point of like, you know I don't want to be here no more, but if I take my life, where can I end up being?
Wow.
Sometimes it's not even
Yeah.
about your family, it's just about your internal, your ex your the word I'm looking for is not external. It's oh eternity, where you're gonna end up eternally. Like, so whatever
Hmm.
happens eternity is the what follows you.
Wow.
So you're
Mm.
right. You're right. It does affect you spiritually.
Now we're talking about mental health, like that other community that we're part of, that Christian community. How has the feedback been? I want to say, like, from pastors and leaders in churches. How has that feedback been? Are the barriers coming down, or I know we still got work to do, but are some barriers coming down?
I would say I've noticed it. Like, even when they're like, talking about different things, they're acknowledging it and giving it a name. Before it was just like, something you're a little off. You had that like cousin, you like, they're a little off, or uncle, like they're a little off. That'd be like, that'd be the word when you use, like, something ain't right about them. And I'm like, leave them alone. Something ain't right about the baby. And
Hmm.
now it's like you'll hear more pastors come across the pulpit about depression, anxiety. They'll even talk about different things, suicide, and they'll even encourage you to talk about trauma and going to see a therapist. And some pastors have come to a place where understanding, like, I can't counsel you in that. I can counsel you in other ways, but I can't counsel you when you're talking about some traumatic things that, like, you experience. I can't counsel you when you're talking about these heavy anxiety these panic attacks you're having where you can't leave your house. And, because my thing is pray about it and walk out the door, but there's like steps to even get you outside your house. And so even looking at that is important. So I think you're beginning to see pastors and church leaders and different church be able to say, what, you're using counseling as a resource now, not as necessary. Like if you went to counseling, it's like, girl, I went to counseling last night, but don't tell nobody. You just keep
Yeah.
praying for me, like, and now you'll even see people say, I have a therapist. Before it was like, you wouldn't, like, if someone knew you were seeing someone, they'd be like, why are you seeing that? Like if they knew you were in the field, why are you seeing them? Oh, I was just talking to them about something real quick. Like you kind of like minimized it. Now it's like, girl, I got a therapist and maybe you should get one too, So, so yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's good. So, wow. How does the therapist get therapy or get self-care?
So I say every therapist need to talk to a therapist. I truly believe in that because we carry so much, not only our own stuff, but other people's stuff. But the main thing is self-care for us. I've learned that the hard way. God has shown me that the hard way, that I definitely need to take better care of myself, because there is times where I can have a heavy day and that can affect me. I take it home. I go to sleep with it. I wake up the next morning with it. So a lot of times just having those moments where you can just have a candid conversation to talk to someone else, just to explain, because the thing is we get triggered too. You may have we may have experienced something similar. And so as you're telling us what's going on, we can be triggered in the process of counseling you. And so in that being triggered, now I have to deal with my own emotions and my own thoughts and my own feelings, not to bring it back and to project it on you. I have to get myself centered in order to be sure I can help you correctly. And so I can't talk to you in my sessions because I've heard clients say, my therapist used my session for their session. That's not supposed to do that. But I definitely need to be able to talk about that and process that. And so that's where either you have good friends that you talk to, or you actually have a therapist. And one thing that we've been talking about is actually having a round table, and just having a round table with just a whole bunch of Black therapists coming together, because we carry I'm not saying it's nothing against our colleagues, but to be a Black therapist, we do carry a lot on a lot ourselves, right? And so then when you're dealing with other people's trauma that I have experienced similar to yours, it may not be the same, but I've experienced it in some sort of way. It can trigger me. And so just having a safe place and be able to talk about it, being like, you know what, it's hard sometimes to be just not only Black, but just be a Black therapist, because it's like, and just being a process that in itself. So self-care is very good for us. And also having a safe place to talk about what's going on is good for us, And so having that place to tap into is great for us. So.
Wow. You tapped on something that I didn't even think about. The Black therapists and their role. How difficult a role is that?
I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for every Black therapist because everyone else may be different. But I think for me, it's challenging, because it's, it's not that I'm saying that you're asking me to do anything different. It's just challenging because I'm experiencing what you experience. I can feel it as you're talking to me about it. I don't feel as far removed as if I'm just talking to someone else whose problems may be something smaller. And so, when we talk about those things, those secrets that happen in the home, and the first thing, people come and be like, I never really looked at this as a traumatic experience because it just happened. And I thought it happened in everybody's home. I can really understand where that comes from, because a lot of times as a kid, I didn't think things were traumatic in my eyes because I felt like it just happened in everyone's home. And then when I laugh about it as an adult, and me and my sisters, and we laugh about it, we were like, that was traumatic. Like seriously, like we should have been going to therapy because that was traumatic, the stuff we experienced. And so I feel like sometimes it's, as a Black therapist, it's sometimes hard to be removed, myself especially, because sometimes we can get to that place where we not only become sympathetic. Now I empathize with you, and now we're on the same wavelength. So now it's like sometimes it's like we're talking like two friends sitting on a porch because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
girl, let me tell you. Like, so it's like just even being to keep those boundaries is important because a lot of times you become very comfortable with not only the client becomes comfortable with you, but you also the client, you become comfortable as well. And you can overlap those boundaries. But I'm speaking for myself. Someone else might be like, I'm good,
Yeah.
Star. I don't do those things. But I feel like a lot of times because we are part of a lot of that stuff or those issues that it's hard to separate those issues.
Mm. So, like we talked about mental health, and like it's been trending the last couple of years. But I want to ask, just like we take care of our physical health and we get regular checkups. Some of us, I'm not gonna say me, um, we're supposed to get regular checkups.
Yeah.
Is it should we get regular mental checks, health
Yeah.
checks?
Hmm. I feel I don't feel like I think some people feel like when you come to therapy, you have to come like every week or twice a week. No, it depends on once whatever you're coming in for. Some people have those urgent issues that are happening right then and right now, and so coming in once a week is important. Some people come in and just want to like process some things, so maybe every other week is good. Some
Mm-hmm.
people come in and just be like, I just kind of need to make sure I'm thinking right. I'm understanding what's going on in my life. So maybe once a month. So it's just based off of what's happening right now in your situation. I mean, I've had clients I've seen weekly go from being seen weekly to going to seeing monthly. And I have clients that I've seen you know, bi-weekly, monthly, back and forth. I just feel like it's whatever's happening at that moment. And so
Mm-hmm.
being flexible as a therapist, understanding that you may not need me. And I think as therapists, we know like you get to a place where the conversations or the sessions are not so entailed. So it's like more of the discussions may be like you went to the grocery store and you had a good weekend compared to like almost 3-4 months ago. It was like you talked about your anxiety and how hard it was for you to just make it through each and every
Mm-hmm.
day. And so we were seeing each other to get you to that place that now we have these conversations that, you know what, I'm able just to breeze on through my day and keep it moving. So
Mm. I guess I'm part of three communities. Chris-
would you keep
Christian,
going? Would you
African
keep
American,
going? Keep bringing up communities.
yeah, Christian, African American, and the male community. As well, the black male community specifically. How has your work been with that specific group, black men?
um, I think that's a hard day. It's hard for men to come in
Yes, it
for
is.
therapy.
Yeah.
And if they do they tell people they're coming in for therapy? I would say the few and far between males that I've had, um, that's what they came in, that's what they were seeking. They were seeking therapy. But you don't see it every day that men tend to reach out and want to have therapy. I would say if you did we did statistics, and this is just off the top of my head, and I'm saying off of my caseload, like I would say 95% of my caseload is female and 5% is male.
Wow.
And I think
Mm.
that's because it goes back to maybe even as a child being in tune with your own emotions, to be able to cry and talk about that's not manly. Because even if you like, and I'm not trying to knock a man at all. I'm not man bashing, but even if you look at it, when a man cries, it's like they kind of like, well, downplay, like, I ain't crying, I ain't crying, leave me alone. But it's like they don't even want to embrace the tears. And so to come
Mm.
into therapy and to begin to strip away some things, that's hard because
It,
you may cry through that process.
it is. I could just speak from experience. um, I can speak from experience. It was a tough sell for me, because I've grown up in the era where my dad, he was the tough guy. Not the tough guy, but he was like one of those manly men. He wasn't, I want to say, chauvinistic, but he handled his problems within himself. He's very reserved and very quiet. And so I never, heard him talk about therapy. Like many of those eras, they just handled it. They handled family, they handled everything. And it was just like, and not until, my fiance was like, I think you need to go to therapy. Not in a bad way, but it was like I found myself taking things out on her or taking things out on the kids. And I just needed to decompress. It was what I want to say. Not so much of an urgency, but it was an urgency because I had all this weight and I would just take it out on her. I can admit that. Sorry. Take it out on her, take it out on the kids. I might take it out on the coworker. And it was it was a very hard sell because I am not that church person that's like, just pray it away. You just need prayer. There's a demon in it's like you just don't want it bad enough. And so I realized that first of all, there were some traumatic childhood issues that I've never dealt with. I just swept them under the rug because for me, I just keep going, keep going, keep going. And I remember having a conversation, with my fiance. She was just like, she takes a moment. Like me, I need TV on, I need radio on, I got social media on, and she just takes a moment with just silence. But for me, I always got to keep going, keep going. I don't know what rest is. I'm sorry to say that. I know that's a bad thing. And that's probably for a lot of men because we're always constantly thinking what's next. Not that women aren't, but sometimes women, they'll take that time to just, Cal gonna take me away. The old commercial just, and sometimes, and I don't, for some reason, I don't like silence. And it wasn't until she brought it up maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was like, maybe I need some silence. Like, but it's always, the electric devices, the TV, everything. Like I sleep with the lights on. I mean, it's like, and so, and I'm not like we're saying, I'm not saying all men, but for me, it was very, very hard because I've grew up like that. It wasn't the pressure to be macho, but it was the pressure to be macho. If that makes sense. Like no one said nothing verbally, but then when you fall and scrape your knee, get up. You all right? Meanwhile, blood is gut.
Like, meanwhile, you need stitches and to go to the hospital. But you'll be okay. We'll just put a Band-Aid over.
We ain't going to no hospital. And so, and I think especially, I don't, like you said, I don't know how, I can't speak to Caucasian men and Asian men, but to Black men, like, we go through a little bit of trauma, and so sometimes we're told to stick it out, and we're, don't talk to nobody about it. So it was very hard for me to come to therapy, and even my first little session, I ain't telling all my business. Like,
no, you had that look. Right. I didn't think you were gonna come back. I was like, I don't know why I'm scheduling this guy. He ain't coming back.
But it helped me out. It like really, really helped me. It helped me decompress because sometimes, because of I don't want to go here, but kind of because of the state of what we have to go through as African Americans on a whole, sometimes we don't need to decompress with our significant other all the time because they already got weight. The weight of the mother and taking care of the children and taking care of everything else, and then the weight of the father, working and trying to make it, and sometimes it's not good to always dump. Where you could, that it's not a problem, but sometimes it's not good to put all that weight on them. And so,
and I have to like stop because I want to say this. It's not about the dumping. It's about the rawness of it sometimes. So, right. And so I think, when you're, in relationships, it's how raw is it? Because sometimes when we speak from our emotions, we're raw and we say things that we don't mean, but it's coming from that emotional state. And so I do agree with you, like coming to therapy to process that and then take it back because now the emotion's not so raw, and so I can hear you clearly. Because if I'm emotional and I'm trying to talk to you, and you're emotional and you're trying to talk to me, I hear nothing you saying. There's no
Nothing.
active listening happening. I'm listening to respond to you. And once you're done, da 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 da, and then you be like, "Are you finished?" I am not done. Let me finish, because I'm coming from that place of emotion. And so I do agree with you. It is a hard thing for men to be able to go in and process those raw emotions, because a lot of times you have like just suppress them and suppress them and suppress them
Hmm.
to the place that a lot of times when men have come into therapy, they remind me of like a soda, like a pop bottle, like a soda pop bottle that someone has just come around and just have and they say, here's your can or here's your bottle. And then I go to open it, it's like, psh, because it's like all of this has happened. And
Mm.
so that's kind of the state it's in, because you've been so used to like saying, I'm okay, I'm
Yep.
okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, or if I've shown I'm not okay, how did I get a response to let me know it's okay to be not okay? Because a lot of times
Mm.
you have shown that, and then you got the negative response like, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be okay regardless. And so I think that also plays a role as well. Not only just being a macho man, but has people respond to you in a soft manner to let you know it's okay. This is a safe place for you to express your emotion, to let it tear out, to kind of let some of that air out, and to be able to express that. So
Wow.
I didn't mean to cut
That's
you
good.
off, but
No, 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 no. You're
I just
fine.
wanted
You're
to
fine.
say the raw, because that's like the biggest thing, the raw emotions. So
Yes. That phrase. You got a couple minutes left. That phrase that it's okay not to be okay. How? I don't know how. Like we got barriers. What can we do to normalize that phrase?
I don't know, but I mean, can we get a shirt now?
It's
You might
got a
put that,
shirt.
and yeah, if you put that on your website, you better give me one. No, it's fine. But I think it's just being able to be that place for people, that soft place, and so it's not just also as therapists we create that place, but also as you talk about relationships, whether it's with a significant other relationship, romantic relationship, or parent-child relationship, or a familiar relationship, family relationship, whatever it may be, is being able to know that if I am in a place of not being okay, is it safe for me to tell you that? you know
Mm,
a lot of times we're not able to tell people we're not okay, because everyone sees us as you're supposed to be okay. And the strong people are always the ones I hear say, I'm not okay, it's been too much, it's been too hard, it's been this, it's been that. And so truly to be able to have a safe place to go to and be able to say I'm not okay is okay. And I think that's something that we need to do in like an intentional way of being able to say I'm not okay, you know, and
mm,
for us to say it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel lonely. These are feelings that you have, and it's okay to feel that way. And it's okay at that moment you're not okay. So
wow, that's great. And now, as we end the show, I always like our guests to give some final encouraging words to our audience. And I would just like you to speak to that person that feels that they have to be the savior, that feels that they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. I just want you to somehow, some way, just give them some words of encouragement.
to that person, I definitely would say the first thing is understanding the power of no. And what I mean by that is not that you go around and tell everybody no, but you learn how to set healthy boundaries. And so, when I mean by saying no, is sometimes you have to be able to take your hands off of things. We cannot touch everything and we cannot be everywhere. And so, it's important to understand your limitations and your boundaries so that way you can be able to have those moments of self care, self reflection, and get those moments to refresh, to revive, to get filled up, to be able to be that person. I will leave with this, and I always say this, and I find this so fascinating. And a lot of people probably don't even, you may look at it different now if you ever fly, but I always tell people, remember when you're on an airplane, the flight attendant automatically tells you, put your mask on first. And they say that because if you don't put your mask on first and try to save everyone else, in the process you're trying to save everyone else, you can end up dying or passing out. But if I put my mask on first, that way I am actually filling myself and taking care of myself in order to take care of the next person and then the next person. But if I don't put my mask on first, I won't be there. I won't even not only be there and not take care of myself, but I won't also will not only be there not to take care of someone else. So if you don't remember anything I said in this whole thing, remember to always take care of yourself first. And so remember, and when you go flying, if anything ever happens, I need to put my mask on first, which means I need to make sure I take care of myself first in order to take care of my family, friends, and everyone else around me.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not going. Starshema.
Yes, you
I
should know
got
my
it.
name by now, but you never call me by my name. Yes.
No, because I was like, I was trying to sound it out. Um, I didn't know there need to be some accents on certain parts.
No. It's
But
just
I
how it's spelled. It's just how
okay.
it's spelled. That's the main major.
So I just want to thank you for coming on the show. You said you was nervous, but you did a great job. So we need to definitely have you back on. We know that mental health and therapy is not just a trend. That is an important one of my things. I work with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and we work in mentoring. And my CEO talked about mentoring is not even an option anymore. It's necessary. And
Yes.
mental health is not just an option, it is necessary. So I want to thank you for coming on. I know that you got a couple things that you're working on, your camp. So I want you to talk a little bit about the camp that you got going on. Tell us about it.
So, real quick in summary, so I have a nonprofit organization called We Are Beautiful Outreach Programs. It was established last year. It is my new baby. I love it. I'm nurturing it. And so we have been blessed. God has actually opened the doors for us to have our first camp, very first camp at Boyce Park. Super excited.
That's
So We Are Beautiful actually is this organization we provide, I want to say, how do I want to put this? Self-awareness. So we do a lot with the self-esteem with the young females. And I have not forgot about my young boys, but I am only I am only a female. And so my young girls have been suffering a lot. And so this
mm-hmm.
organization I have put together a wonderful camp, which is called Knowing Your Self-Worth. And the objective of the camp is understanding who you are and the importance of who you are, not only to your family, not only to your friends, not only to your community, but mostly important who you are to yourself. And so we are going to dig into those things and understand those things, those qualities that we don't want to talk about because people don't find those beautiful in us. But I am super excited. So if anyone wants to know any more information about We Are Beautiful, we do have a website. It is waboutreach.org. You can go on there and our programs are listed on there. The summer camp is listed on there. As well, if you would just like to talk to me, you can also send an email. There's an email link down there. Or if you want to donate and sponsor a young girl for camp, you can also do that on the website. But I'm super excited about it. And I do agree with Big Brothers and Big Sister. Mentorship is important. And so prayerfully next year, we will be able to have a mentorship program where we'll be able to mentor young girls to actually pair them up with young women in the career. So that would be really exciting to have. So
Amen.
always mental health is important, but mentorship is important and giving back is important. So those are three things that I would say not only We Are Beautiful does, but I believe in. And so I would end on that note. So I appreciate anyone who has listened to that, but please check us out. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to send us emails.
And we're going to get that information and we're going to put it on our page. We believe in community here at Creative Conversation. So we're not just individuals, but we are a community. And so I'm going to get that information up on all our social media, and so spread it abroad because it's definitely important. Woo! This has been an amazing show today. Woo!
Perhaps.
Away, but we back, and so to continue to pray for us and continue to just keep us lifted. We believe that we are on to something amazing. I just want to thank our guest, Starshenah Duncan, for coming on and blessing us with all mental health information. I know this is not going to be the last time she's going to be on, but thank everybody for tuning in, and thanks everybody who's going to tune into the replay. Thank you again for coming on. Be blessed in all your endeavors. And like I always like to end the show, thank you for having a creative conversation with us. Be blessed.
Thank you.